almost did not stop. He was already late. His car was running. The parking structure at Cedar Sinai Medical Center was 3 levels down, and the exit was backed up the way it always is on a Tuesday evening when the shift change collides with visiting hours. He had his hand on the gear shift when he saw her through the windshield. She was standing between 2 parked cars in the road directly ahead of him. Scrubs, dark blue, a badge clipped to her chest. She had both hands pressed flat against the roof of a silver Honda Civic that had a cracked rear tail light and a parking permit from a community college he recognized. And she was crying in the particular way that people cry when they believe no one is watching. Not quietly, not with any attempt at composure, just openly, with everything. He put the car in park. He sat for a moment. Then he got out. What happened next, in that parking structure and in the 4 months that followed, would not become a story anyone told publicly for a long time. And when it did, it would not come from him. Cedar Sinai Medical Center sits on Beverly Boulevard in Los Angeles, in the part of the city where the wealth of West Hollywood meets the commerce of the Fairfax district, and neither side fully acknowledges the other. The main building is 1958,000 square feet. It has been ranked among the top 10 hospitals in the United States for more years than most of its nursing staff has been alive. Its parking structure charges $5 for the first 30 minutes. After 3 hours, it is $21. The nurses who work there do not, for the most part, park in the structure. They park in Lot D, on the west side of the campus, a surface lot that requires a badge and a $74 monthly payroll deduction. On a good day, the walk from Lot D to the main entrance is 9 minutes. On a bad day, when the maintenance entrance gate is stuck, which it is approximately twice a week, it is 14. The woman standing between the 2 parked cars on level 2 of the patient visitor structure had not come from Lot D. Her name was Renata Vasquez. She was 34 years old. She had been a registered nurse for 9 years. For the last 14 months, she had been working 3 jobs. Renata Vasquez grew up in Boyle Heights, the third of 4 children, in a house on Cesar Chavez Avenue above a laundromat her parents had operated since 1991. Her father ran the machines. Her mother kept the books. By the time Renata was 11, she was helping with both, sorting orders before school, restocking detergent on weekends, memorizing the names of regulars the way other children memorize the names of friends. She had not become a nurse because she was inspired by a single moment. She had become a nurse because at 17, she watched her father have a stroke in the laundromat and saw, in the 14 minutes it took the paramedics to arrive, what it looked like when the gap between what someone needed and what was available was measured in time. A survived. Fully. The recovery was slower than anyone had promised, but he walked back into that laundromat 11 months later and stood at his machine and ran a full cycle. And Renata stood in the doorway and understood, with a clarity that sometimes arrives in ordinary moments, exactly what she wanted to do with her life. She graduated from nursing school in 2015. She passed her boards on the first attempt. She accepted a position at Cedar Sinai in the surgical recovery unit. Night shifts, because the differential was $6.50 an hour, and she had $41,000 in student loans, and a plan. The plan held for 7 years. Then, her mother's vision deteriorated past the point where she could safely run the books, and the laundromat's long-term lease renewal came with a 31% rent increase. And her youngest brother, 17, a junior in high school, the one who was going to be the first to finish a 4-year university without working every weekend, needed a laptop that their parents could not buy. And Renata recalculated, the way she always recalculated, quietly, methodically, without telling anyone how close the numbers were. She picked up per diem shifts at a rehab facility in Culver City on her off days, 4 hours on Sunday morning, 6 hours on Wednesday afternoon, which meant sleeping from 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. on those days, and arriving at Cedars for her 7 p.m. shift on 6 hours of broken sleep. 8 months ago, she had added a third job, medical transcription, remote, billed hourly. She did it on her phone during her lunch break, and on the bus home at 3 a.m., and in the 20 minutes between getting home and collapsing into sleep. She had not told her parents. She had not told her brother. She told her best friend Camille, who was also a nurse and who said, "Renata, you cannot do this to yourself," which was true and which did not change the math. That Tuesday evening, She was crying in a parking structure because she had just learned, via a voicemail she had listened to 3 times in the elevator, that the rehab facility in Culver City was reducing per diem hours by 40% effective the following week, citing a census drop. She had been counting on those hours. She had already counted them. They were in the spreadsheet kept in a notes app on her phone. In the column marked confirmed. She was standing at her car in a visitor's parking structure because she had taken the bus to work, and the bus home would not run for another 47 minutes, and she had come here to use the facilities before the long wait, and she had not made it past the car. She was tired. She was not broken. There is a difference, and she knew it, and that knowledge was the only thing that had kept her standing for 14 months. It came around the front of the car slowly, the way you approach a situation you are not certain you have the right to enter. He said, "I'm sorry. Are you okay?" She looked up. She registered who he was in the way that people sometimes register a famous face in a real context. A half-second of dislocation, and then the immediate overriding priority of the present moment. "I'm fine," she said. "Thank you." He did not leave. "You don't have to be," he said. "Fine, I mean, it's a parking structure." She looked at him. He was wearing a gray hoodie, dark jeans, sneakers that had seen considerable use. He had his hands in his pockets, and he was not performing concern. He was just standing there steady, the way a person stands when they are genuinely present and not planning an exit. She laughed. It came out suddenly, involuntarily. The specific laugh of someone who has been holding too much for too long and finds the absurdity of the situation briefly louder than the weight of it. "Yeah," she said. "It really is." He steward toward the low concrete wall at the edge of the level. "Can I sit with you for a minute?" She considered this for a moment. Then she said, "Sure." They sat on the wall. The city was visible through the gap in the structure, the slow amber pulse of Beverly Boulevard below them, the line of the hills in the west, going dark against a sky that had not quite finished its business with the sun. She told him it was a work thing. She said it was fine, that she would figure it out, that she always figured it out. A sighed. "How many jobs?" She paused. Then she said, "3." He was quiet for a moment. "He did not say 3 jobs. That's incredible, or you shouldn't have to do that, or any of the things that people said when they wanted to respond to a hard thing without actually sitting inside it." He sighed. Which one? Just changed. And something in the specificity of the question, the fact that he had heard the particular shape of what she'd said, not just its weight, made her tell him, not all of it, but enough. The rehab facility, the hours, the spreadsheet, the bus home in 47 minutes. Hay listened the way someone listens when they intend to remember what they are hearing. When she finished, he did not offer a solution. He did not tell her it would work out. He said, "That's a lot to carry for a long time." "Yes," she said, "it is." They sat for another few minutes without speaking. Below them, the traffic on Beverly moved in its slow arterial rhythm. Somewhere in the structure above them, a car alarm went off and then stopped. He asked her name. She told him. He said, "I'm Keanu." She said, "I know." He smiled. "Yeah," he said, "I figured." The bus would come in 31 minutes. Hay said he would drive her to the stop so she didn't have to wait in the dark. She said she was going that direction anyway. She looked at him. He was not going that direction. The stop was 3 blocks east, and his car, she could see now, was pointed toward the exit ramp on the west side. "You're not going that direction," she said. "I'm flexible," he said. She let him drive her to the stop. On the way, they talked about the hospital, the specific texture of a night shift in surgical recovery, the way time moves differently at 2 a.m., the things that become ordinary after 9 years that other people would find extraordinary. Él listened as if he had never thought about any of it before, which made her say more than she had intended to. At the bus stop, she got out. She thanked him. He said, "Take care of yourself, Renata." "I mean that." The bus came. She got on. She found a seat by the window. She did not cry again until she was 3 stops from home. And by then, it was a different kind of crying. Not the weight of it, but the strange, unexpected relief of having been seen, briefly and without agenda, by someone who had no reason to stop and stopped anyway. She did not expect to hear from him again. 12 days later, She received a call from a woman named Grace Tanner, who identified herself as working with a private employment assistance organization that partnered with healthcare professionals navigating financial hardship. Grace sighed she had Renata's name from a referral she was not able to disclose, and asked if Renata would be willing to speak with her about her current employment situation. Renata sighed she was not sure what this was. Grace said, "It's not a charity. It's not a loan. It's a job match. We have a client looking for an experienced surgical recovery nurse for a private consultation role. Part-time, flexible hours, compensated at $65 an hour, no minimum commitment. You set the schedule. If it's not a fit, there's no obligation, and we part ways." Renata sat with the phone in her hand for a long moment. She asked who the client was. Grace sighed she wasn't able to share that yet, but that if Renata was interested, an introductory call could be arranged for the following week. Renata said, "I'm interested." The client was a production company's insurance and wellness coordinator, a role that had existed for years on large film sets, and that, Renata would learn, required exactly the combination of clinical knowledge and practical adaptability that 9 years of surgical recovery nursing had built into her in ways she had never thought to name on a resume. The work was real, 12 to 15 hours a month, irregular, paid promptly, no commute beyond the occasional set visit that was, she had to admit, interesting in a way she had not anticipated. The Culver City hours did not need to be replaced. The spreadsheet, when she updated it 6 weeks after the first payment arrived, had moved into territory she had not seen in 14 months. She dropped the transcription work in February. She kept the Culver City shifts, 2 of them reduced from 4, because she had come to like the patients there, an older clientele mostly. People recovering from hip and knee procedures who appreciated a nurse who remembered their names and their preferences, and who did not rush the discharge instructions. She did not know for certain that it was him. Grace had never confirmed it. The production company's name meant nothing to her. But there was a quality to the way the opportunity had been structured, its specificity, its lack of condition, the way it required nothing of her except her actual skill. That reminded her of a man who had asked the particular question and not the general one, who had heard the shape of the thing and not just its weight. She called Camille and told her. Camille said, "Renata, who's that?" I know Renata said, "Are you going to say something to him?" She thought about it. "I don't know how to reach him," she said. "And I think maybe that's the point." She sighed something anyway, not to him directly. 8 months after the parking structure, she wrote a post on a nurses' forum she had been part of for 6 years, a private community, password protected, several thousand members, about the experience of being seen in a difficult moment without being fixed, without being made into a lesson, without being the recipient of anything that required her gratitude in a way that cost her something. She did not name him. She described what had happened in the terms that mattered to her. Someone stopped. He didn't try to solve it. He asked the specific question. And then, later, something changed. Something I couldn't trace back to him with certainty, but something that had his fingerprints all over it, if that makes sense. The kind of help that doesn't announce itself. The post was shared 847 times within the forum. The moderator messaged her and asked if she wanted it taken down. She said no. 3 months after that, a journalist who was also a nurse and who was a member of the forum wrote a piece for a healthcare publication about the structural financial pressure on working nurses. She interviewed Renata, not about the parking lot, but about the broader landscape of it, the loans, the per diem market, the invisible arithmetic of keeping multiple jobs sustainable without any of them knowing about the others. The parking lot was one paragraph, not the focus, the context. The piece ran. It was read by people who needed to read it. The phone at the forum did not ring. Forums do not have phones, but the comment thread ran to 312 responses, and Renata read every one. I have told a lot of stories on this channel, but I keep coming back to this one because of a detail that is easy to pass over. He asked the specific question. Not are you okay? Though he asked that too. And she answered it the way we all answer it. The automatic way, the fine thank you way. He heard that answer for what it was. And then he asked, how many jobs? Which means he was listening to the things she had said to hear the things she had not said. He was reading the actual shape of the difficulty. not the surface of it. And that specific kind of attention is rarer than the donation, rarer than the job, rarer than any of the practical things that followed. I think about the people in my own life who are standing between two cars somewhere, in a parking structure or its equivalent. I think about whether I am asking the general question or the specific one, whether I am hearing the answer they give me or the one underneath it. I am not sure I am. Not always. Most of us aren't. But I think it is worth trying. I think that is maybe the smallest version of what this story is about. Not the grand gesture, but the moment before it, when someone decides to ask the question that takes a little more to answer. This story is fictional, inspired by Keanu Reeves' well-known reputation for genuine, unannounced acts of kindness toward ordinary people. If this one stayed with you, drop a comment. Tell me what you took from it, or tell me about a time someone asked you the specific question. I read everyone. If you know a nurse or anyone carrying something heavy right now, share this with them. Not because it solves anything, because sometimes it matters to be reminded that someone might stop. Subscribe if you want more stories like this. One, I have more. See you in the next one.